Best analyst Collins Awake joins me live from Belgium for more on this development. Thank you for joining us on The World Now. Mr. Awake, over the last week, we've seen police arrest hundreds of protesters at these demonstrations. We've seen it now span across dozens of U.S. universities. Despite the threats of suspensions and ultimatums, these protests have not abated. But what we've seen instead is that these encampments have now become some sort of an inspiration to other societies. In France, for instance, the French government is dealing with its own anti-war protests in universities. We're also hearing of solidarity protests by students even in the Middle East. What do you make of this new development, and what potential impact do you see it have on the war in Gaza?
Thank you, Nifemi, for having me. Essentially, students actually share one characteristics all across the world, especially those who dare to come out when they feel there is a need to come out. They come out not because they are confident that they are going to win the war, I mean, in terms of getting all their demands heard, but they come out because this is a fight that they find necessary to preserve our humanity, necessary to also create some sort of a trigger effect, like you referenced, to other parts of the world. And to that extent, I believe they are actually making some, success out of the protest, because indeed in France, in Germany, and other parts of the world, you actually see the same protests taking place, and this is as a result of the one that they have started in the U.S., drawing attention to the war and telling them that they need to divest and actually stop the killing in Gaza.
Absolutely. Let me get your reaction to what Israel thinks of this protest. Israeli President Isaac Herzog has claimed that U.S. universities where pro-Palestinian Palestine protests are taking place have been, quote, contaminated by hatred and anti-Semitism. Do you think there's any evidence that such views are driving this protest, which have been calling for a ceasefire in Gaza?
There is absolutely no doubt that some elements have seized on the protests to actually partake in what could indeed be considered as anti-Semitism. There is absolutely no doubt about that, and I believe that it is essential that those are singled out and dealt with. But largely, the protests were occasioned by the injustice that has been going on, the killings rather, that have so far, up to 30,000 people have so far been killed in Gaza. And so there is genuineness in those protests. They are imbued by the fact that, injustices are taking place, and the occupation of Gaza, for decades, that is something they no longer can stomach. So anybody trying to sweep that under the carpet and hide under the cloak of anti-Semitism, the person is doing injustice to truth. Because yes, both are happening, and they have to be separated and dealt with independently.
The thing is, the U.S. is now faced with questions about whether or not it's bias in this conflict, and more so the possibility of carrying the burden for what many now call a genocide in Gaza. We've seen the United States condemn the loss of innocent lives in the past, but it still insists that these military units in Israel are eligible for U.S. military assistance. When you think about how much money Washington is given to support Israel's military onslaughts, do you think that it has the responsibility to do more if we're considering peace in the Middle East?
Yes, certainly the U.S. can do more. And that is what the young people, the young students who have come out to protest, that's essentially what they are saying. Now, I mean, nobody wants to be in the shoes of the current U.S. administration. Let me just look at the figures. 81% of young people who are actually, the drivers of American democracy in terms of, the elections, 81% of them do not believe that the way the Biden administration has handled, this conflict is actually, one that should be given a pass mark. And then within his own party, the Democratic Party, don't forget, election is just a few months away. 53% of young people in the Democratic Party, the party of President Biden, also do not favor Biden's policy. So he has a very, very delicate path to tread. And so while on the one hand, he condemns, the genocide, on the other hand, U.S. resources keep going to Israel, which is now being used to kill, Palestinians. And that is something the young people are no longer able to stomach. Again, Biden is in a very, very difficult situation.
I agree with you, and I think time will tell how much impact this will have on his chances at the poll in the coming months. Thank you so much for sharing with us all the way from Belgium, Global Affairs Analyst Collins Nweke.
Thank you for having me.
Let's take a break now. And